And all of this is designed to drive results, to improve the maintenance renewal rates. And we do this on a pay-for-performance basis so that our dollars are aligned with your results, right? We begin to get paid more than you would have been paid, or more than what your cost would have been as your business performs better than it would have otherwise. So what are the parts of that business? Right, hopefully these all look familiar. Right, we've got applications that are old. Before I came to ServiceSource, I ran the maintenance and support business for a large software company that was later acquired by Oracle. Nearly a $700 million business. We ran it out of Excel. We finally had to move off of Excel because we tapped out the number of lines that Excel can manage. Anybody know what that number is? Yeah, it's like 65,000 lines. Well, that's what we tapped out. Excel spreadsheet with 65,000 lines in it. It's time to move off that platform. But it's difficult. So over the course of 5 years, we had 3 different attempts and spent nearly $20 million. This is at the prior company to deploy new technology. Right? That's hard. It's time-consuming. It costs a tremendous amount of money. And guess what? When we got the first release out of it, it had less functionality than Excel. So it's very hard, right? The applications, I get it. Those are hard investments to make. But the scale of the business now is so significant for many companies that we need to move off those applications that had been running the business. Additionally, the data is a challenge, right? If you're running stuff out of Excel or older systems, having good access to comprehensive data to understand how that business really performs and understanding what you're going to do differently based on what you learn from how your customers are behaving is significant and hard to do with systems and old broken data. Additionally, the processes that you use. So what we find with our clients and your end users today is that they're different than they were 3, 4, and certainly 5 years ago. They know all the tricks, right? What they want and what they need is to be sold to, as opposed to administering a contract process. They need to be sold in the value. And in many cases, selling $1 for $1 in a maintenance renewal is failure. You need to sell $1 for $1.10 or sell $1 for $1.50. Right? And so it's important that you have processes as well as people that can enable that. There's a significant amount of comparative analytics that enable that as well, in addition to automation. And if you look on the right side of this slide, just an idea of how much time needs to be invested, the cost, and the risk, all of which I'm sure are familiar to you. So that's why it's important and why we asked Larry Escalona to join us to talk specifically about what's happened at Motorola. So this is a live case study to help you understand where value has been driven from a partnership with ServiceSource and how he's changed that business. Larry.
Am I on? Am I on now? Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you very much, Keith, and thank you to ServiceSource for inviting me to present today. When I was first invited, the first thought in my head was, do I really want to stand in front of a bunch of people and tell them how dysfunctional Motorola service was at the time? And discussed it with my boss, and I've participated, those of you that are customers with ServiceSource, you've probably participated in some of the customer summits that they've had. And one of the things that helped me become comfortable with doing the presentation and doing the speech is that I realized that we weren't alone. And when we went to these summits, we realized that most of the companies out there, their service organizations had fallen behind their revenue generation. So, and I know that Keith was talking about revenue and revenue growth. As the P&L owner, we were realizing that same growth that Keith mentioned with respect to service and in relation to products. So we were already achieving much of that growth. The problem is, as many of you know here, is service is very labor intensive. And by the way, I'll back up for just a second and explain. I'm with the public safety radio component of Motorola. And actually, I'll go into the next slide, and I'll explain a little bit about what I do so that you can understand where I'm headed. So this is our service model for Motorola once we've sold a product. We designed the public safety systems, towers, et cetera, and the implementation. My organization essentially takes over at the post-implementation point to provide the support services, kind of the break fix, as well as the management of the systems and then the security of the systems. And that is important to know because this is individuals in the field, men in a van, and we have 900 shops nationwide covering the support that our customers need. And so as our revenues were growing, the natural thought process was we need more people, right? And people are expensive. Trucks with test equipment and everything else, and then the training that goes with all those individuals, it becomes very expensive. And we also have a team of customer support managers that, and I'll refer to this in just a moment, that manage the delivery of those teams. And they were entrusted with both the growth of the business as well as managing the delivery. So the dilemma that we ran into was as our business grew and as our customers grew and our customer service contracts grew, the low-end customers, the lower-tier customers, the smaller municipalities were not receiving the attention that they deserve. And just because they don't pay us as much doesn't mean they don't need the service as well as the large multi-million-dollar systems. So they were kind of falling behind. And in some cases, they were saying, I'm not receiving the value that I should expect from Motorola. Their renewal or their service conversation was once a year. Possibly, if they were lucky, they actually received a phone call. In many instances, they would receive a fax that says, here's your contract from last year. We've updated the date. We're going to keep the amount the same. And that was essentially because the customer support manager did not have the time to really perform the research and determine what is the appropriate price for this customer this year. Did they add equipment? Even a small customer purchases radios. They retire equipment, right? So we were literally taking last year's contract, putting a new date on it, saying, please fax this back to us. And by the way, in many instances, it was 2, 3, maybe 4 months after their other contract that expired. So it was a product of our own success, right? We're growing the top end. I was challenged with managing the costs and still providing adequate value to our customer base. So as Keith mentioned, and I'm sure many of you could relate to this, we were also managing service contracts, and our CRM was an Excel spreadsheet. We were managing the customer support plans just in Word, and then developing them ad hoc, and you had 100 different people with 100 different versions of customer support plans for their individual customers. And then when you did get the opportunity to load a contract, there were 3 different systems that it had to be loaded in. So I think I've painted the picture of the administrative nightmare for our customer support managers that were out there supposedly taking care of our customers and visiting our customers and making sure that we're delivering value. Instead, many of them were locked in behind their computers at their offices, and we needed to stop that. So the initial engagement with ServiceSource, and I'd love to take credit for coming up with the idea of utilizing ServiceSource, but it was a very nice gift that was handed to me. Motorola acquired Symbol Technology, and when we were in the process of integrating with that company, they told us about this marvelous organization that is helping them, and they manage all of their contract renewals, and we're doing a fabulous job.